Elliotth96 here with a brand new creepypasta to read to you all. So today we're going to be reading a very popular creepypasta in the last few years, or a year or two, depending on how long the story has been up. I'm not really sure, but this is called Barbie.avi. Now you're thinking, does this have to do with Barbie dolls? Well, find out later in the video if it does, because came across an interesting theory about this. So what occurs in this creepypasta? What occurs to this Barbie and this AVI? So let's just find out and read this creepypasta. Hello, this thing happened to me a few months ago. I just needed to share it with somebody. It all started at my friend's party. He's an artist who rented out a loft in the industrial part of town. If you could picture what a place like Detroit looked like in the 1920s, that's what this area looks like. A bunch of old turn-of-the-century factories crammed into 10 blocks. Most of them are abandoned. So I partied a little bit too hard that night and I decided to crash on a couch at the loft. I woke up around 4 a.m. The sun wasn't out yet, but you could still make things out in the dim blue light. I went to the bathroom, carefully tiptoeing around people that were passed out on the floor. As I was taking a piss, I tiptoed to look out the bathroom window, and I saw the panorama of deserted urban decay. I remember how much I liked places like this. It was so dark and devoid of life, and strangely serene. So I went back to the couch and tried to fall asleep. After 45 minutes of staring at the ceiling, I didn't want to be there any longer, so I swallowed up my pride, decided to wake my girlfriend up to beg her for a ride, since walking around the vacant streets at this time was not really an option. Being an awesome girlfriend, she was totally cool with it, and told me she would be there in about a half hour, and that she would give me a call when she was outside. My phone died 10 minutes later, so I decided I would sit by the window and watch for her car. I sat there for a while, and my eyes started to get heavy, and I began to doze off, and a crashing noise outside woke me up. It wasn't loud, but just enough just to snap me back into reality. I looked out the window and scanned the area, but didn't see anything. Across the street from the loft, near a mountain of garbage bags and one of those enormous dumpsters, I see a computer and a monitor smashed against the floor that hadn't been there before. When my girlfriend arrived, I went downstairs and greeted her. Just as I was about to get in the car, I remember a friend of mine who had blown out his power supply, so I decided to walk over to the dumpster and see what I could salvage. The monitor was worthless, obviously, but the tower seemed to have suffered almost no damage. So I put it in the trunk and we drove off. About a week have passed, and I have completely forgotten about the tower until my girlfriend called to let me know that it was still in her trunk and that she wanted it out. That night I brought it home. Before I took it apart, I decided to hook it up to my monitor to see if it still ran. And to my surprise, it did. It ran in Windows XP, and it looked like it had been wiped clean. I decided to do some searches for words like tits and pussy in hopes of finding some secret stash full of weird deviant porn the previous owner had forgotten about. Morbid curiosity, I guess. Search came up, nothing. Search for the picture files, nothing. Then I searched for movies and one file came up. It was an AVI inside a folder titled Barbie, hidden in the Windows System 32 directory. So I played it. Now this is where it gets disturbing. The movie was about an hour long, and it was made up of what seemed like raw exported footage. The footage was of this woman sitting on a chair talking against a white backdrop. I skipped through most of the movie, and it was all the same continuous shot. Then I decided to sift through the footage to find out what she was talking about. 50 seconds into the footage, the audio goes completely bad and her voice is drowned in harsh static background noise. I couldn't make out a thing. So I imported the footage to Final Cut and tried to mess with the levels to isolate her voice. It helped a little, but I still couldn't even hear what the hell she's saying. She almost reminded me of Bane from The Dark Knight Rises. I don't know. I was intrigued now, and I began to really pay attention to her face and her body language. It seems that she's been being asked some kind of questions because she stops at times to listen and then continues to talk. About 15 minutes into the footage, her face begins to redden and contort as if the questions are bothering her, but continues to answer them anyways. Shortly after that, she begins to start crying. She stops hysterically for the duration of the film. One of the few words I could lip read was skin. She repeats this word many times throughout the footage, and at one point she even pulls at the skin from her arm and mouths the word. She seems to be unhappy with her skin. There is much more I have to get off my chest, but it's getting late now, and I can't go on. I will share the rest of tomorrow. God save my soul. Well, it kept on building and building, and about 40 minutes in, she's crying so hard she could barely look at the camera. She stops talking at this point, and the rest of the footage is just her crying with her head down. Oddly enough, she doesn't get up or move. The screen just fades to black. I was fucking dumbfounded here. I played the whole thing so many times that night. I was trying to find inflections and nuances in her movement that would reveal anything else about what was going on. I felt so dissatisfied. I wanted to know more. That's when I noticed that there were about 10 minutes left on the timeline after the screen went to black. And about 2 minutes in there was more footage. The footage was extremely shaky, almost unwatchable, and depicted a pair of legs walking along train tracks. My guess is that camera was accidentally left on as it was being carried somewhere. The person in this footage walks along the train tracks for about 6 minutes and then turns into the forest and walks over what looked like foliage flattened by a piece of plywood. The person continues to make on this makeshift plywood road until the movie clip ends. Now my heart started beating with excitement because there was train tracks a few miles away that looked very similar to the one in the video. I had to check it out. I called on my friend Ezra. He's 6'4", 250 pounds and mostly muscle. I convinced him to go on a little adventure with me. I'm no pushover myself, but I felt if it was to go wandering in the woods looking for God knows what, extra muscle couldn't hurt. This whole idea of investigating this video had me so excited I couldn't even sleep. The next morning on a sunny Saturday, I took my flashlight, my camera, and my 7-inch Kabar with a matte black finish and serrated edge, and went to pick up Ezra. When I got to his house, he wasn't even awake. When I woke him, he pretty much told me to fuck off. I was already packed, and I had mentally prepared myself to do this, and I decided to go through it without him. I parked my car at the train station, took my stuff, and hopped onto the tracks. After walking for about 2 hours, I saw a broken piece of plywood, and my knees almost buckled with excitement. I searched the nearby foliage, and there it was, a little plywood trail leading into the forest. I walked slowly along the trail, paying close attention to everything. I would stop occasionally, kneel down, and listen for anyone or anything. But it was so quiet. This was one of the most nerve-wracking things I've ever done. I don't even know what to expect at the end of this trail. The dense tree line gave way into a little island of grassy field, and then I saw it, a house being consumed by the forest. From the looks of it, no one had lived in there for maybe 20, maybe 30 years. I got my camera and snapped a few photos. A few yards away from the house was a tool shed made of rusty sheet metal. Just sat there among the trees for a while, absorbing everything. I didn't want to go into an open field. I had this bad feeling that something would see me. It took me a while to muster the courage to go into the house. The door was partly open. I pushed it with the flashlight and was relieved that the inside was actually very well lit. I put my flashlight away, got my camera, and took a few more pics. There was no furniture. The floor was riddled with bricks and wood and rubble. Some of the walls had huge holes in them. When I went in further to explore, I saw some things that I really didn't pay much mind into that moment. But now that I think about them in the hindsight, they greatly disturb me. The first thing that seemed a little odd was that one of the doors in the first room that I presume led to the basement seemed a little too new to be in this house. It was also the only door in the house that was locked. Also, when I made up to the second floor, I saw chairs and fold-up table that also seemed a little too new to be there. But what disturbed me for the most, for some reason, was the bathroom. The dust on the mirror had been wiped away, and in the bathtub, I saw a clear plastic tarp that still had water droplets on it from them, when I presume it was washed clean. That's when I heard something moan really loud, and then that's when I jumped the fuck out of the second story window and ran back into the tracks. Halfway there, I realized that the moaning was most likely a water pipe expanding or contracting, and that little moment of relief gave into a heart of which I felt when I wondered why the fuck would water be running in a seemingly abandoned house in the middle of the fucking woods. Now it's been almost a little more than 2 months since that happened, and I haven't gone back there, nor do I plan to. And that is Barbie.avi. Now, honestly, this creepypasta I actually enjoyed most. And when I first read it for the first time, I was not really. I was kind of creeped out by it. I was like, I didn't really pay much into the whole speculation and theories about the story until I watched. I'm subscribed to a YouTuber named Hudo Hoodlum's Revenge. He posted a video back a few months ago where he got a comment from a subscriber of his, and it's an interesting theory about the story, and I would like to share that theory pretty much. So because the video that people say is real, there's 4 parts, but mysteriously one of the parts actually disappeared from YouTube, so there's only 3 videos. Keep in mind, if you're going to watch one of these videos, you should watch part 4, just the first 3 seconds at least, because in the bottom of the screen, for maybe a few milliseconds, you see the word in parentheses BIID. Now I looked up those letters. It turns out it stands for Body Integrity Identity Disorder, meaning that it's a psychological disorder in which a healthy individual feels that they're uncomfortable with a part of their body, such as a limb, and they feel confident that removing or disabling this part of their body will relieve this discomfort, or relieve their discomfort. Man, that didn't even make sense. So now that made me think, holy shit, because it makes sense. She's talking about her skin, she's pinching her skin in the video, and what turns out, if you watch the video, at one point, she looks up, she moves her right arm up, and it turns out she actually had her right arm amputated. So pretty much, I feel that she didn't feel uncomfortable with her right arm. She got it removed, and that's probably what she was being asked about. And then now I believe that that's why it's called Barbie.avi. And now it ties into what the theme about Barbie dolls. With Barbie dolls, you can modify them, change their clothes, do their hair, and rip their arms. Rip out their arms. Is there a connection? I don't know. It's an interesting theory. I'm not gonna do that. Not a game theory, a creepypasta theory. Jeez. But honestly, that is a really interesting theory, and it actually creeped me the fuck out. The first time I saw that, oh my Jesus Christ, dude. That is pretty interesting. But it's kind of creepy with the fact of now going back to the story, it's pretty weird that an abandoned house that looks abandoned in the story has furniture that looks new, tables and chairs that look new, and the mirror in the bathroom is wiped clean from dust, and the tarp in the bathtub has water droplets on it. It just looks like that something recently was in there, and then I feel that the moan was probably somebody. And that's probably the reason why the basement door was locked. So that is really what I have to say about this creepypasta, Barbie.avi. I actually pretty much loved it. Now with the series, I fucking loved it. But now I don't know which creepypasta to do next. There's so many stories that I promised during this year, but then the computer problem started. So there's 3 stories that on top of my head that I want to do. Jeff the Killer, Mario, and then a very lengthy one too. The showers. The showers, yeah. So comment down below and let me know which creepypasta you want to see next. Jeff the Killer, Mario, or the showers. So that is it. If you have any changes in this creepypasta that you would love to make, post that comment down below to let me know what changes you would make in this creepypasta. If you like my creepypasta video, you can hit that like button and also subscribe. This is JDL96. See you guys next video.